Yo YouTube, this is my video for Tuesday the 25th of June. It is now the following morning and I could have done this last night on my way home. I had plenty of time to do it, but due to me being an absolute idiot, I messed up yesterday quite big. And a truism I think of YouTube content providers is you don't tend to get people making YouTube videos when they are feeling down or particularly negative, and that was the case yesterday evening when I realised what I'd done. So I was not in the frame of mind to sort of present my daily figures, and as a slight aside, I think this is what I've noticed about other YouTube content. You don't tend to get on YouTube videos much of the downsides of life. You might get a glimpse, you might get it in retrospect, sort of after the event, but you don't really often, or at least not stuff I've seen, get shown the downs and the big sort of errors and mistakes as they're happening. And I think the reason for that is it's quite difficult to know where to present that tonally, because if you start going into content that is constantly miserable and downbeat because that's how you feel, people are not going to engage with that. So there's an unwritten rule that you should be upbeat and engaging with YouTube content, and I think that does slant the content that's provided, and it makes it look like everyone's life is really good on social media, but actually everyone's life in social media is just a snapshot of what they've chosen to show for that day, even if it's daily videos. So I think that's something that anyone who does YouTube would understand and probably will never change. And I'm not sure there's a demand for somebody having a YouTube channel where they just talk about how bad things are. Or maybe there is, I don't know. Maybe there's a niche that needs to be could be looked at. I think that seems like a very negative way of looking at things. But life is full of ups and downs. A person's life is full of decisions that you make that are good and bad from, and good and bad from whose perspective. So I think I'm going to choose to show some of what I did or didn't do yesterday in this video, because it is a reflection of what happened. But I don't want to get too bogged down in the weeds of it, because it's hurtful. I mean, I feel hurt at the moment, and I know the person that's going to see this who it affected the most. So I will share, the bare bones, but I'm not going to share the emotional side of it, which I think is not for public consumption. And saying that, you might think, "Oh, what's happened so bad?" I feel bad about what happened, but you might think, "Oh, that's just the way things happen." In terms of your perspective. Anyway, let me move on. So the stats for. What I'll do is, I will run through the day as it played out in my head, rather than in retrospect what I now know, and then I can pinpoint to the minute the point at which I made the wrong decision now in hindsight. And I've also reflected on how I can try to avoid it happening in the future, and that may or may not be successful, but there are things I can do to sort of mitigate it. So my stats for yesterday were as follows. I have my average fuel price is 12.53 pence per mile. I drove for 355 miles, 355. I worked for 12 and a quarter hours, although that in my head is inverted commas. I didn't work that hard or that long. earned £190, 190, from 2 CX jobs. I spent £44.48 on fuel, which meant that my net earnings after fuel was £146. Now, considering how the day went, that isn't actually too bad. It wasn't a disastrous day. I did make some money. I made about £66 after business costs taken into account. So it kind of wasn't a disaster, but let me talk about the day. And it started off, this video would have been all about my first job of the day, because that really was a big part of what was going on yesterday until the second half of the day. So I was at my mum's house the night before, and I sort of thought I'd try and wake up reasonably early and see what there was around the Birmingham area. And I was probably, in the end, about 8:30, I was looking at jobs. And a job came up eventually that was a long wheelbase van job, collecting from, it was just basically it was Worcester, and it was going to a HR postcard. It was about 23 miles. So I was struggling to find work that was, my plan at this point was to work my way back home, but by home, just not a normal day. I wasn't going to tramp out a second night, although towards the end of the day I thought I might do that. So I thought just get this job and get on the road and see what happens. So I won the job, and then I noticed as I was just after a bid, £60, it had in text 2 other postcodes written in the notes. So I realised at this point there was actually going to be 3 deliveries. But the mileage on the CX was like 23 miles on the job. So it was, at this point, immediately I thought there's something going on here. I don't understand this. I got a call quite quickly, and the guy said, "Did you read the note about being 3 stops?" And I said, "Oh, I've just noticed that. Can I have some extra money for that?" And I said, "Can I have 80?" And he said, "I'll give you 90. Now, I should, I suppose, at this point, have started to get what's the word? Inquisitive about this. But I just took it, oh right, he's been generous, and took it at face value. So, he gave me a road, and he explained to me that he was broken down, and that I was going to collect some items, pallets, 3 pallets from his van, and deliver them for him because he's broken down. So he gave me the road, and I found the road and was going about somewhere there. I was about 40 minutes from here at this point when I left home. It was around about 12 miles to get to the pickup. And so I made my way towards him, and then he called me about 20 minutes later and asked how long you're going to be, and I said I'm about 20 minutes. And then I got to him, he was parked on the road, there was another van on the other side of the road facing towards me, so it parked up, and I went past him to turn around so I could reverse up to his van to help offload. As I went past the front of his van and came back, I saw that he had quite significant damage to the front of his van. So the breakdown, which I was thinking was like a mechanical breakdown, like a puncture or a clutch going or something, was actually a crash. So that's the first bit of miscommunication, I suppose. But it's not that important, is it? But does it matter really why he can't do his job, whether it's crash or breakdown? Not to me. But it does indicate a level of honesty, I think. Anyway, there was no other vehicle in sight, and the other van had not got any damage on it, and I don't think it was anything to do with the crash. And I don't know why the other van was there. There was a driver in there. They seemed to kind of know each other, but he seemed to be waiting. He didn't come out of the van when I got there. He didn't help as well. So I reversed my van up, and I was thinking, how are we going to get pallets off? But I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about, because I'm not really fit for doing lots of carrying and lifting. But I reversed up and opened up the back of the van, and then what I saw was a pallet with a very high load on, and it seemed to me to be quite heavy. I mean, he managed to shift it a little bit by himself, and then Tues shifted it. And then it became apparent to me very quickly that he had a high van, and I've got a medium height van. And there was at no point any notes in the booking saying that the load was extra high. This load must have been at least 1.75 metres high, and so I could see that it wasn't going to fit on my van. But he wanted to get it on. Obviously he was keen to get this done, and so we kind of pushed and pulled, and he got on top and pushed it down, and we got it on eventually. Kind of squeezed it through the back of my doors. I wasn't prepared to say to him I won't take the load, because I think it's up to him to decide what level he's going to go to deliver it. But I didn't feel I had the right van for this at this point, and if I'd been told it's a 1.75 metre load high, I wouldn't even have bid on the job. So it's the second thing that was sort of niggling at me now at this point. And so he explained to me that this pallet that he had was the first to be delivered, and obviously it was at the back of his van, and now it's at the back of my van. We've got to get 2 more pallets on. So I thought, well, let's put the other 2 pallets on through the side door then. We came to the next pallet in his van, and it was way too heavy for us to lift. There's no way we could lift it up and around and to the side of the van. So we just had to push the big pallets to the centre of my van, and then the smaller low pallet back to the back of my van. And it got on. It was okay. Once we got sit it across, it was all right. And then the third pallet was quite light, and we managed to just walk that off around down through my side of my van. So I was loaded up, and yeah, it was done. At this point in time, I was just a little bit anxious about how I was going to get the big pallet off. But I thought all I can do is explain when I get to the red what's happened. You know, that I'm taking this load off a van that's broken down, and do our best to get it off. It's got on. Let's get it off. So then the driver gave me 3 pieces of paper, one for each of the pallets. Just asked me to sign them and send a photo on WhatsApp to him for these loads. So at this point, I was able to get my van and start to make my way to the first drop off, which was only about 23 miles away. This was the HR postcode. And then I realised that the other 2 postcodes was Cheltenham, and then I thought it was Gloucester. It was a GL postcode, but it was actually about 35 miles south of Cheltenham. So in the end, I thought this is actually 85 miles of driving I'm doing here for a long wheelbase. And then there's a handballing at the start. I feel like I've got not very much money for £90. Not very much for £90. It's basically £1 a mile for a long wheelbase job. It isn't very much, particularly not when it's an emergency job like a breakdown. So I was thinking, oh, this doesn't feel like it's a fair rate. So I then got to my first delivery point. I was thinking about this all the way. No, this was after my. Sorry, no, this was stop that. I was thinking this after I did my first delivery. So this is the first delivery. So my first delivery was quite quick. It was only about 20 minutes away. So I got to the place, and the first thing I was really thankful about was it had a big yard. So I could just park up, plenty of space, wasn't very tight on parking. Now I went into the reception area and I explained the situation, that I'd got a big pallet that had been squeezed on, and we needed to get it off with some probably brute force, and just explain the situation. And the second thing that was lucky was that the driver that came out used a telehandler, not a forklift. So I got him to take off the back pallet and just put to one side. That was for another company. And then my idea, which in the end worked, was I would strap a ratchet around the pallet to the telehandler. I'd get him to pull the pallet out of the van, and as it got to the back, I would then push down on the top and push down on the bottom so that it kind of tilted out of my van and was able to get out. So with him pulling and me pushing, I thought that might just about work, and it did work really well. You had to do a lot of pushing, and it got out. The pallet was sort of slightly at an angle. There was weights to the pallet, so it kind of, once it got over halfway, it sort of naturally sort of tipped by its own weight. And then we stopped pulling it. It stayed in place, and then we took off the ratchet strap, and then he come and brought the telehandler in, and he was able to sort of manoeuvre it in and up, in and up, in and up, until eventually we could drag it out of the van, and it was delivered. So that actually was a lot easier than it was putting it on, obviously. And I was really grateful to the telehandler guy, really, really grateful, and thanked him profusely. And then I made my way to do the two easier drop-offs, which were the two little pallets. So he put the other pallet back on the back of the van, and off we went. Now to this point, I was then looking at how far was the mileage, and I worked out we're looking at sort of 85 miles for the journey, so I felt I needed a bit more money. So I texted him, the shipper, I've done your first delivery, sent a photo of it, and then I said, would you be prepared to pay me another £20? I thought I'd push it. I thought 10 is fair, 20, I'll try 20 because it's a bit awkward, this job. And this is when we had another conversation which I wasn't particularly happy about, because I did forget one thing actually. When I first arrived and opened my van, he said to me, are you VAT registered? And I said, yes I am. And that was the end of the conversation. And when I texted him about having extra money, he said he would be able to pay me extra, but he's not VAT registered. And I thought, I don't feel happy about dealing with this situation, but I'm here now. I've got something. I've loaded one, and I've got to deal with this. So we came up with an arrangement of money that we're both happy with, and in the end, he paid me £120. So I was trying to think about why would he not be VAT registered, and I don't really get it. I suppose he was of Eastern origin descent, so maybe dealing with the British tax system is difficult, but you get an account for that in that case. So it all seemed at this point a little bit dodgy, but I sort of, I was in it now. So I got the next pallet delivered. It was going to a retail unit, and thankfully the guy that was there, there was a guy there to help me, but he wanted me to carry this pallet on the back of his van, on the back of my van, to like the corner of the yard, and I thought, I'm not doing that. He had a pump truck, so what I did was I said there was a couple of empty pallets. We put the empty pallets at the back of my van. I reversed the van back up to where he wanted it, first of all, where the pallets were. We got the pallets off the back of my van, dragged it onto the pallets. He used the pump truck to move all the pallets to where he wanted it. So that was much easier than me carrying this very quite heavy. It's about 100 kilograms, I reckon. This pallet. And then I was off to my third stop. Oh yes, so this is the other thing that was dodgy. I was trying to work out why he was located where he was. So his stop was sort of west of Worcester, about 20 miles west of Worcester, and his van was facing a road in the opposite direction to where I had to go to deliver the first stop. And I asked him what happened. He said he came around the corner and I don't know, he hit something. I didn't go into detail about what happened, but he was meant to come down the road he was on, but I don't understand why he was going that direction, because on the paperwork it had the depot was Bristol. I looked at the map, and Bristol to HR, the HR postcode, you go up the M5 and then you turn off before Worcester, cross country. So I didn't understand how was his van, where it was, and then I saw the second bit of paperwork, which had a Sheffield depot of the same company, and the third bit of paperwork was back to the Bristol one. And I looked closer, it had the name of the driver that I was dealing with on the first paperwork with Bristol delivery, and it had delivery stop 1. So this was the one that was going to HR. The second delivery, which was Cheltenham, had from the Bristol depot, same driver's detail, and also the van reg was on there, and that was stop 2. But the third bit of paper, which has a Sheffield depot, had stop 2 on it and no driver name and no registration. So my only the other thing is both of them had the same delivery date, which was 25th of June. So it wasn't like one was from the day before. So somehow this guy has got on his van a load from Sheffield with 2 stops on it, and a load from Bristol with 2 stops on it. So I don't know how he's done that, because this was like in the morning. This was about 11 o'clock ish, 10:30. So there's no way he's driven from one to the other. So now I'm thinking, does that explain the presence of the other van that was there? Maybe he was a colleague of his, and maybe he's got something to do with it in that respect. But I mean, it makes sense to me that. And also the other thing is, how did he get? He couldn't have got 4 pallets on his van. It was a Sprinter, so I'm pretty sure he couldn't fit 4 standard pallets on. So maybe the other van had the pallet on, but I don't understand what's going on there. It all to me seems very, very dodgy. The VAT, the delivery, not being clear with the delivery dimensions, where he was located, and the 2 lots of forms. But it's not for me to, I suppose, question that. Okay, I am questioning it literally, and I'm doing it publicly in a video forum. But I can't do anything about it. It's just something I can't understand. And I'm sure there'll be people out there who will instantly go, I know what's going on here, and will probably tell me. I don't really care, to be honest. It just, what I'm explaining is reasons why I felt, what's the word? I want to say icky, but that's not the right word. I felt discombobulated. No, that's not a good word. Unsure about this. It just felt a little bit illegitimate, and I was involved in something that seemed a little bit not quite right. But I had to just do my bit of it properly and honestly. So what I did was I delivered all 3 items. I sent a photo of them all where they were located, and I delivered them straight away without delay. And I got a photo of all the pods, and I was off my van. And the times were as follows. So the first one I delivered was off site at 10:45. The second one was in Cheltenham, was at 12:05. I was off site, and the third one I was off site at 13:10. Now, this brings me to the critical part of the day. I was driving towards a place about 30 miles south of Cheltenham, to sort of southeast, in the middle of nowhere really. I can't remember the name of the place, but it wasn't really. It was a small town, if anything. It wasn't anything I've heard of before. Sort of like Turville, maybe. There's 2 words to it. I'm going to say Aston Turville, but it wasn't that. And I never heard of it before. And I got there, and as I was approaching it, I thought, I'm now going to be stuck down here. I need to get myself a job heading towards home, or get a job, because it's going to be a quiet area. And with the extra money on this, I thought I could just dead mile it to Gloucester or to Bristol, but I wasn't sure until I got there how far away those places were. And when I eventually got there, the closest place to me was Chippenham, and a job came up from Chippenham to Gillingham, but not the Gillingham that's famous for being in Kent, one that's south of this Chippenham. It's about an hour south. And my first mini mistake was I rushed into it. I rushed into bidding on a job because I was looking on the feed and there was nothing in the local area, and I was about an hour away from everywhere else. And then suddenly this job came up, which was 15 minutes from where I was. I just jumped at it and bid on it straight away. And I bid on it thinking it was a 1:30 pickup. So my mind was just completely focused on get this third pallet delivered, and then get yourself across there, because I was going to just about make it before 1:30 for the end, and get this job done in an hour, and then work out where to go from there. Now, I got the job. I explained to the guy I was 15 minutes away. I got something on board. When I'd offloaded my pallet, I was 3 minutes away from my drop off. I said 3 minutes away with the pallet. Once I've done that, I'll get to yours, and then I'll be about 15 minutes away or so. And then he gave me the job. And in my head, it was 1:30. And as I said, I got to the offloaded at the depot at 1:10 for my last pallet. Did all the sign off, and I was off. And I was rushing off to the Chippenham postcode, which in the end, from where I was, when I got to the actual postcode, the actual full postcode, was 18 minutes away. So I rang the shipper at this point and said, I'm actually going to be on your site dead on 1:30. They didn't say anything, they just let me get on with it. This was another guy in the office, so I thought, right, I'll let them know I'm going to be dead on time and I've got this job in the bag. And he said to me at this point, just let you know, there's 5 pallets, you're picking up the last 2, and then this is the driver picking up the first 3. But they're probably there before you, he said. I remember him saying that. So I rushed there. I got there exactly on 1:30, and then I realised the booking said pick up between 2 and 2:30. I had read the 2:30 as being 1:30 in my head, and it's not the first time I've done that. I've read something wrong. I did that when I read the 8 to 8 o'clock pickup in booking. It's 8 to 9. So it's happened twice to me now, and it's quite concerning. So I was actually half an hour early, but luckily they were already. They just put the last pallet out when I arrived, and I got loaded up, and I was off within 15 minutes. And I thought, at this point, brilliant! I've got myself ahead of time, got my job. I'll be there even before the other driver, and I can find out what's going on. So I was driving down towards this new Gillingham, which isn't the one that is in Kent, and I arrived there about, I'm trying to look at my notes here, it was 9 dead miles from the last pallet to Gillingham, 18 minutes. I left at 1:45 and arrived at 3:15, there we go. And I was offloaded, and then I went to the local Asda, and I sat, I hadn't had anything, because I tramped out, I hadn't had anything to eat apart from 1 apple and some porridge in the morning at my mum's house. So I was quite hungry. I thought, I'll get to Asda, get some food, look for a job. And so I was there, and it was actually dead. There was nothing there at all. This was about 3:15. So I was bidding on stuff. I waited for about half an hour. I ate about 20 minutes. I ate my food, bidding on jobs. I was bidding on stuff for the morning as well. And I was thinking, oh, this is, where can I go? So I saw Warminster, I saw Frome. I thought, well, let's head north, it's more towards home. I head towards Warminster and see if there's anything comes up in the meantime. And then on the way to Warminster, I got a job for the morning, which is what I'm doing at the moment. But it's a little job, because I thought I've got to stay local tomorrow, so I've got to have a short day tomorrow, get home in time for the evening. And then, as I was driving towards Warminster, I got a little notification come on my phone for a calendar. And I thought, I don't usually have those. They're usually for quite important things. So I looked at that notification, and this is when my whole world came crashing down around me, in a kind of, not in a major sense, but in quite an emotional sense. And at first I read it, I thought, I've made a mistake. And it was giving me a warning to go home preparation for the evening's sort of show that we'd booked, that my partner had booked for us to go on. And I made sure that put a warning in well in plenty of time, so I had a good hour or so to get home, and then an hour or so before we had to go out. And then I looked at it and I thought, this is tomorrow, why is it on today? And then I looked at it again and I thought, have I done that on the wrong day? And I couldn't get my head around it. This is where you kind of have I don't know whether it makes sense, but your brain is telling you this is real, and then you get to something else that doesn't agree with that. So then your brain goes, that what I thought was real, wasn't it? And you think, no, this is real. And it gradually dawned on me. It's 25th today, isn't it? 26th is tomorrow. Tomorrow's when I'm not working. Tomorrow's when I'm meant to be doing my day off because of my hospital. That's the 26th. Remember the 26th? I've messed up because I've got in my head from last week. I thought it's Wednesday and Thursday. No, it's Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday's the show. Wednesday's the hospital appointment. And I was so far from home at this point. I put the sat-nav in for Peterborough, and it would have got me there. If I'd gone directly to Peterborough from where I was, it would have been something like 8:15, which was a good 45 minutes late, and that would be the earliest I'd have got to Peterborough. And then I just realised it took a while, but I realised I've got the wrong day, but I've completely not looked at this. So I just started driving. I was a bit of a daze, to be honest, and I started driving towards Bristol, thinking, well, maybe I can get a job towards home from Bristol. I mean, I can't dead mine at home. I mean, this took about 20 minutes of me thinking of ways around it. If I went another way, if I went really fast, would I get there in time? But straight to Peterborough, but obviously couldn't get home first. So straight to Peterborough. I realised, it's just not going to happen. So I looked for jobs at Bristol, but my heart really wasn't in it. I've been on a few things, but I just ended up. But basically, at the bottom of the end of the day, I just didn't mind it all the way home. And that journey back was really miserable for me, because I knew I'd really, really messed up, and there was nothing I could do to correct it. And I felt really bad. And usually, when I do things that are bad, they're not that bad. And, I usually do make small mistakes. My errors are usually, no one notices. I might take the wrong turning, or I might forget something that I remember. But I hate it when it affects other people, and this affects the most important person in my life. Anyway, so I drove back. It was 3.5 hours of just getting miserable, and that's how am I going to deal with this when I get home? So that's why I did not feel like doing a video about my day yesterday. This morning I don't feel particularly good still, I must say. I've been thinking about how I can avoid it happening in the future. There's a couple of things that go through my mind. One is a problem, one is a kind of solution. And I've mentioned this in another of my videos, and I've talked about I'll talk about it a bit now again. It does concern me that my memory is not good. It's never been good, and maybe this is the first signs of a future dementia diagnosis. Because obviously, if you've got dementia when you're in your, let's say, 60s, 70s, when you're in your 20s, 30s, you haven't got dementia. But between the 2 points, there's a gradual decline, and you're not going to necessarily be aware in the very early stages that it is going to be caused by dementia. But I have worked in the care industry, and I've seen dementia, and it's forefront on my mind that this could be a thing. I don't believe I can get to a doctor about it and say, I think I've got first signs of dementia, because I think they'll just think I'm crazy because I can remember most stuff. It's just those pockets of things that just elude my mind. So I'm just sharing with you that it is a concern that may be something that's going on. I need to find strategies that can support my memory, that isn't just relying on my memory. And up until now, I've been able to rely upon remembering the big things, or a day when something's due to happen. So I might forget the time or some words, or I might forget some things, specifically some smaller things. But I now begin to forget the actual day things are happening on. Well, this is the first time I've supposed to happen for a while, but this happened. So it's to me something I'm worried about. Anyway, I do have a calendar. I need to probably use it better. I did put in the calendar this event. If I had looked at that in the morning, I would have resolved that issue straight away. So there's an easy solution. Just use the calendar that I've got on my phone, like regularly every morning. Just be more, I suppose, proactive about make sure I don't forget stuff. The thing about that is I do think that's right, but I've got to remember to do it. And I don't have a lot in my calendar. And if I look at my calendar 5 days out of 6 and there's nothing in it, I'm going to perhaps think, oh, this isn't really worth it anymore, in my head. So anyway, I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to try and look at my calendar in the morning or something. Maybe neither the night before or in the morning. Specifically make sure I look at it so I don't forget stuff. Because the point is, if you forget something, you've forgotten it. You can't remember. You don't remember you've forgotten something. So me relying on remembering the day so it's going to happen. If I forget it's going to happen that day, so I knew that show was going to happen. I knew I was going to the doctor. I just misremembered the day it was happening, which is as good as not remembering it at all. At the end of the day, if I thought it was the day before, no issue, no harm, no foul. But I thought it was the day after. No, other way around. If I thought it was the day after, then you look at it, you get there a day early. It doesn't matter. But I thought it was the day before. I know you know what I mean. Something like that. Anyway, so I'm bringing this to a close. I hope it makes sense as to what's at the start of the video and then leading through the whole day. Why I did a video and what it's like as a YouTube provider to sort of know what to say, what not to say. I suppose what I could end on is formally and publicly apologising to my partner for being an utter arsehole in terms of forgetting. I am really sorry for doing that, and I will do my best to not do it ever again. And on that note, I shall end the video with just a farewell, friends.